In December 2025, people in active war zones and those navigating deep personal grief logged into an AI chatbot. They shared stories about finding emotional support in a machine when their traditional human safety nets had collapsed. Anthropic collected these vulnerable transcripts and presented them as the foundation for what they claim is the largest and most multilingual qualitative study in history. The numbers are staggering: 81,000 completed interviews spanning 159 countries and 70 different languages. But we have to question if this massive dataset truly maps the global human desire for AI, or if we are looking at a statistically skewed illusion. The public-facing site presents a glossy quote wall, but the structural reality of the study is hidden in the methodology of appendix81k.pdf. Looking closely at the data pipeline reveals a rigid mechanical operation. The study functions as a corporate marketing loop. The findings emerge from specific choices regarding how participants were selected, how their words were processed, and how the final report was edited. This framing affects how we perceive global consensus. It suggests that a product survey can be treated as a peerless sociological artifact. At stake is the ability of a single corporation to position itself as the neutral authority on what humanity wants. Much of the evidence for this critique is documented in the researchers' own explicit admissions. To see how the illusion is constructed, we have to look at the beginning of the pipeline, the input. The first checkpoint is the input stage, deciding who was actually allowed to speak. The researchers admit that all 81,000 respondents were existing Claude.ai users who voluntarily opted into the study. In statistics, taking data from a specific group and applying it to everyone is known as the ecological fallacy. These participants are tech-literate early adopters already using Anthropic's product. Projecting their views onto the general global population invalidates the study's broader sociological claims. By definition, active users are people who found enough value in a tool to keep using it. Sampling from this pool ensures a positive sentiment skew from the outset. This method excludes the voices of those who do not use AI or those who tried the software and abandoned it. Anthropic promotes a 67% global positive sentiment metric, but that figure only reflects a sample that was curated for enthusiasm. Ultimately, this is a standard customer retention survey operating under an academic disguise. The second checkpoint is the processor. The study attempted to analyze 80,000 open-ended interviews in just 1 week. True qualitative research requires human researchers to interpret nuance and emotion through deep thematic analysis. Anthropic took a methodological shortcut. They used their own large language model, Claude, as an automated classifier to process the human transcripts. This system prompt judges the interviews. It tells the machine to read human text and return only a single integer between 1 and 7. This instruction compresses stories of job loss and terminal illness into a single numerical digit. The categories for human experience were defined by a clustering algorithm, meaning a machine, not a person, set the boundaries of the analysis. This creates a conflict of interest. The researchers used an AI to decide if a person's experience with that same AI was meaningful. Even when users dropped out and didn't finish the interview, their partial data was forced through this classification engine. Achieving this massive scale required stripping away the very human nuance that qualitative research is intended to protect. The researchers attempted to measure what they call light and shade, the tension between users experiencing a benefit and fearing a harm. This table from the appendix shows the relationship between these tensions. It relies on a metric called phi. Phi is a correlation coefficient that adjusts for base rates. In this context, it strips away the frequency of the responses to force a mathematical comparison between very different types of feedback. Under emotional support and dependence, the complex human experience of psychological reliance is reduced to a 3x lift metric. It is an irony of the project that to publish a qualitative study, the researchers turned human narratives into quantitative spreadsheets. The framework prioritizes the optimization of a statistical distribution over the understanding of human context. The final checkpoint is the output, how the processed data was polished for the public. The appendix notes that manual editorial interventions were performed on the selected user quotes. Researchers redacted the names of all competing AI products from the published testimonials. This editorial choice changes the software ecosystem reality. It removes the other tools that users were actually using. Scrubbing competitors from the text creates a monopolistic narrative, suggesting only Anthropic's product provides these benefits. This curates a sanitized quote wall that contrasts with the raw honesty found in the actual user transcripts. Anthropic's Looking Forward section then directly links these findings to their own upcoming product development. The final output serves as a highly targeted roadmap for corporate brand positioning. Viewing the methodology as a single engineered ecosystem reveals its true function. The loop controls the input by gathering data only from existing Claude users. The analysis is mechanized by using Claude to classify those users into integers. The final data is redacted and filtered to create a product roadmap, completing the feedback loop. This data is valuable as high-end user experience research for a company optimizing its software. But the inherent conflict of interest prevents this system from producing independent sociological truth. The loop is built to validate the product. Why does the label we give this study matter? Blurring these lines allows a corporation to bypass academic peer review and claim authority over global human needs. There is a massive gap between the messy reality of human emotion and the rigid grid of numbers that a marketing engine requires. We are not learning what the world wants from AI. We are learning what AI companies want us to see.